soon as I get a fresh page here, maybe we'll go like this. We'll recycle. Safety pin. I really love the analogy of a safety pin because it's something really simple. Yeah. And it gets you out of a bind in a moment or time of crisis. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
There's millions of uses for a safety pin.
Yeah.
Millions. Countless. It gets you out of a bind, and it's a simple analogy, and we can relate it to so many different aspects of our lives. So, everyone, draw a picture of a safety pin on your paper. Okay?
Oh yeah, really. It's like cigar.
I know. I'm looking at it. Looks like an amigo or something.
Good. Now, pass your safety pin to the person to your left. Yeah, sorry. My lefts and rights are backwards from yours. Okay. Now, look to your left, and I'm going to look at you. And tell the person that this class is for you.
This class is for you.
This class is for you.
This class is for you. This class is for you.
This class is for you. Okay? I've taught this analogy my whole life as a chiropractor and as a doctor. And you're going to leave here thinking about your health differently. I promise. Okay? Deanna? Deanna?
Oh, really?
You want to sit on that one? Cindy, could you go grab me three Merrick charts? 3 of those nerve charts underneath my desk?
Yes.
Thank you. So the reason I wanted you to tell the person next to you this class is for you is because when I tell people that we're going to talk about the safety pin cycle, the average response is what?
What is that?
What is that?
Yeah.
And I tell people, I say, this class is for you. And you're going to understand exactly why I'm telling you that this class is for you. All right? Here's something I've learned, and I'm going to talk to you from my doctor brain. And it is, I'm not responsible for the way that you feel. And I'm not responsible for making you feel better. And it kind of takes a lot for me to say that. But it's true. And eventually, you get to the point with the people that you care about the most, where you just want to cut the fat and get right to it. And you want to only communicate and share with them what's most important. Because if something is most important, you definitely should put your energy into it. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
In relationships struggle when there's a whole bunch of fluff and there's not enough of what really matters. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. And I look at my patients and my team, and I apply the exact same analogy to them, and I think to myself with Dr. Ashley, if something matters the most, then why don't we just tell people? Okay, and welcome to the nervous system, where I am going to tell you a lot of things about your nervous system in our time together, and I'm going to inspire and encourage you to make sure, moving forward, you keep what's most important to your health, most important to your health. And I promise you, it's your nervous system. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can take your own word for it, and you can do your own research and learn how important and necessary this really is. Fair? Mm-hmm. So as your doctor, one thing I am not responsible for is how you feel. I'm actually not responsible for your health. I'm concerned about how you feel, and I'm very concerned about how you choose to engage in your health. And there lies the difference. And there's what keeps me up at night. As one of my patients is going through a really challenging and difficult time, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm thinking about them. And I've asked myself these really, really hard questions like I just posed to you, that I'm not responsible for your health. I care about your health and I care about everything that's going on in your life. It's out of my control. Entirely. Except when we find that there's subluxations and there's nerve interference in your body, then my job becomes working with you because you've invested in this process to remove that nerve interference. And the reality and truth is I'm entirely disconnected from the outcome because it's beyond my control. It's out of my hands. It's actually out of your control too. When you trust in the truth and understand the truth of how your body heals, you very quickly, through your own educated thought process, can come to the conclusion that, I had to write this down as I was meditating over this morning, that you are not responsible for the outcome of your health. You're only responsible for the effort that you put into it. Because you can do in your head everything that you think is right and everything that every person has told you is right for you, and you can get really, really sick. And somehow, you know these people. Thea, I love the comment that you made to Deanna. You said, I haven't had a donut in 30 years. I can relate to that, but not 30 years. I can think back maybe 8 or 9 years. But and your next comment really struck me. You said, yeah, pain drives you to do a lot of things. It's a motivating factor. Okay? So, once again, you're not responsible for the outcome, but you're responsible for the effort. Because I truthfully and honestly believe that the outcome is out of our hands. You can only put the effort in to get the desired outcome, but there's no guarantee. Something magical happens when you put the effort into it. The outcome sure does start to make a turn, and the opportunity for the desired outcome becomes bigger, and the target becomes bigger. And that's how we steer the ship around. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's out of your hands. You might say it's in God's hands. You might say it's in the universal cosmos or the forces that come from within or above, right? And it doesn't matter. We don't need to get into that tonight.
It's a lot of things combined.
And you might think it's a lot of things combined. And I agree with that, and I agree with it's God, it's innate, there's something else driving every action in your body. When I cut my finger, as I did the other day, I put a little essential oils on there in case there was some bacteria, but I really wasn't worried. There happened to be a whole bunch of essential oils on the counter at my house. Come to my house, you'll see them. Yeah, this for that, that for another thing. I just put a little heel of chrism on my finger and I rubbed it in. And I said, okay, that's going to be completely and entirely healed in a couple days. Done. Never know that it was there. There's nothing I could do to will that to happen. It happened subconsciously, naturally, and innately by those exact powers that we just talked about. I like to think God. Yeah, I like to think there's some universal intelligence in this whole thing. And I know that that's out of my hands. And you can use that for any symptom or any diagnosis that someone labeled you as. It's out of your hands. The effort that we choose to put in will drive, hopefully, us closer to our desired outcome. I'm tired of hearing other healthcare practitioners tell my patients something that is completely so far out and gone from the natural laws of healing. I get upset with that, and then I have to say, okay, don't get upset. That person has limited knowledge of how the body works. They don't know what we know, or they're not connected with the reality of how the body works. It's not their fault. It's just that they're in an arena that doesn't resonate with life. It's not their fault. That's what helps me sleep at night. So when my patients come in, they say, Dr. Andrew, I don't entirely know this whole process because I haven't been to many of your classes, but we're just getting to know each other. This doctor told me that I should do these things. What do you think? And I have to take a moment and pause. And then I always turn right back to the patient and say, what do you think? What do you think your body needs? What do you think your body's designed to do? Do you think your body's designed to heal? Do you think your body is sick and it's getting migraines because it has a lack of those medicines that the doctor gave you? What do you think? Going through that thought process, but I'm very tired of doctors, healthcare providers, recommending things outside of the laws that keep you alive. I don't think it's fair, and I think that those people who recommend certain things do so for one reason, because they have lack of knowledge. I think a lot of people have a lack of knowledge. You said it, not me. Okay? There's one power that made the body, and there's only one power that heals the body, and it's the same power. The power that made the body heals the body. And you can fill in the gaps for where this body came from. But that same power that turned 2 cells into 76 trillion cells in between 9 and 10 months, those same miracles that completely grew this amazing organism, unlike no other organism on this planet, happened in 9 months. And those same powers live within every single cell, tissue, and organ inside of your body. There's not a cell in you that doesn't have those powers deeply ingrained, embedded, and subconsciously at work every second of every single day. And you get to carry that power with you. And I'm tired of people telling you that that power is not good enough.
True that.
It takes away your life, and it breaks you down to a point where it disconnects you even further from the reality of what made you. Okay? And we have this to go off of today to wrap it all up for us, and a safety pin. And you can explain chiropractic in about 30 seconds to someone who thinks that chiropractic is only about one thing, back and neck pain, and you can completely transform their life to the point where they look at you and they don't even know what to say because they've never heard this story of life before. This top loop is your brain. Can anyone even pose an argument or pose a thought that would counter the process that the brain is the master center that drives all other functions in the body? Can anyone pose anything otherwise that would make me convinced that a different organ or a different part of your body drives life? And I've never met another healthcare practitioner that could even pose even a thought to convince me otherwise. You see? Your brain drives everything. It's your master control center. It's your link. It's your lifeline. Okay? I always teach people ADIO for short. Above, down, inside out. There's no other way your body heals. Heals from above, down, from the inside of the body outward. A medication heals from outside in. It's an outside force coming into the body, trying to stimulate something in a way that the body is not designed to function and live. See the disconnect? A medication is used to cover up a symptom. And in medicine, you can win and the person can die. Meaning, if I have a symptom, I can treat that symptom with my drug. The symptom can be gone. I've succeeded in my approach for medicine. I've won. We've cured the person, and the next day they can die. But it still worked. This is what we see with cancer, right? You can completely lose every single patient with the model. All your patients can die. And you can claim that you're beating cancer because the cancer is non-detectable. You see? And it completely skews our thought process of how the body works because that's all we're going to hear about. But you can lose every patient, and theoretically, by their approach, from the outside-in approach, you can win. And I always tell people, it's backwards, and it's not how the body works. It's violating the law of life that makes you exist. It's violating the law of life that turned 2 cells into 76 trillion cells in less than 10 months. Like it or not, it's the law of life. Your body heals no other way than above, down, inside out. And I would even say that these healing powers come from some other source, even above the brain. Once again, call it God, call it innate, call it these cosmos, call it these energies, wherever you want. There's even a higher power that is driving every function. And I actually teach people, I do believe, and we're never going to have these conversations bedside. That's why we have these conversations in class. We can't go there. That's to remove your subluxations and get your power turned back on. Now we get to go deeper so that you can engage and love and share in this process. It comes from even higher. And I do believe that the brain is nothing more than an antenna, receiving information from somewhere else, interpreting it, and then the spinal cord is actually that link between receiving the data, the receptacle or the antenna, coming downward from inside, responding outward to portray life outward. We could spend months having this conversation, and I'm just introducing you to how the chiropractic philosophy of life has changed my life and thousands of patients' lives around the world. All right? If something is a truth, it's a truth how much of the time?
All the time.
100% of the time. And I am challenged with other forms of healthcare. Now, other forms of healthcare might be necessary at a certain point. But I'm challenged by someone who tells me that, doc, this is the way that it is. And I say, how often is it that way? And they say, well, a certain percentage of the time, this is what we're dealing with. And I say, well, a truth is a truth 100% of the time. So if it's not 100% of the time, then it must not be a what? Truth. But if we know a truth, and we know how the body works, not my opinion, but proven, and you can understand, and you can adapt to this, and you can relate to this. This is a truth 100% of the time. So a truth is a truth 100% of the time. We need to share it with people. Someone wanted to have a conversation with me about vaccines. I said, what is the percentage, or what is the rate of effectiveness or efficacy behind a vaccine? How much of the time does it work? And they came up with some number. And I said, and vaccines are safe or they're unsafe? And they said, oh, they're very safe. I said, okay, so never has someone been injured by a vaccine. Well, no, we can't say that. So is it a truth that the body needs to have this outside source injected into the blood supply of every human? Is it a truth that it is safe 100% of the time? Well, doc, we really can't say that. So it's not a truth. So it's not, you're telling me that you cannot guarantee that this is not going to injure and disrupt every aspect of everything in my life if you give me that vaccine. Well, I don't know. Nobody wants to talk about it. I say, if it's not a truth 100% of the time, it's not a truth. So we can break down these other viewpoints by asking that simple question. Is it a truth 100% of the time? And when I look at chiropractic, I say, if someone has a subluxation, it's going to block their nerve flow. Every single time. Every single time there's going to be a disruptive flow of energy, life, chi, innate, God. Every single time. So when I look at chiropractic, I say, if it's a truth 100% of the time, and anyone who has a subluxation is going to have less life or less flow, less energy, than people who have subluxations need adjusted every single time. Okay? This is our safety pin. And the brain has to send signals to communicate with organs, like your heart and your lungs and your
The
intestines and your, oh man, that's a kidney. It sends these nerves out to give life to those organs. And those organs have to communicate back where the information came from. This is an afferent response. We call these afferent nerves. And here's your spine. Supporting that central nervous system, that spinal cord. And then the nerves exit out to give life to the heart, lungs, cells, pancreas, liver. And they have to interpret the signals. Brain says, I'm getting ready to eat an apple, and I'm munching that apple. It sends a signal to every single digestive organ, light speed, and says, hey, pancreas, start producing some enzymes. We need to break this apple down. Hey, liver, let's get to work here. Let's produce some bile. Let's get some stuff going. Let's get some activity. Intestines, let's get moving. We got to process this stuff. We got to absorb these nutrients. We got to get the life from this apple. And the organs have to send a signal back up to the brain. Afferent and efferent pathways. And these pathways are constantly at work in the safety pin. You guys got it? Here's the challenge. That's a closed loop. There's a feedback loop at work there. Brain says one thing, organ says another thing. Brain says one thing, organ says another thing. It's a happy body. When we have a break in the system, that feedback loop gets destroyed. Or, as I like to say with the safety pin, when there's a break in the system, you like my big safety pin here?
Oh.
That feedback loop gets restricted. It's blocked. Brain sends information to the organ. Organ tries to send information back to the brain, and it gets lost. I call this a subluxation. There's a disconnect in your nervous system where the brain information is either not getting to the organ or the organ is not getting the information back to the brain. You can pick an organ. It doesn't matter which one. If this feedback loop is broken to that organ, you're going to be just spewing out data, and it's not going to get interpreted by the processing unit, the brain. If there's a break over here between this pathway, the information from the brain's not going to get to the gallbladder. And you've heard the stories. My gallbladder was only working at 20%, so they took it out. And I go, ooh, dang. If I would have just got to you sooner, we maybe could have turned that around. Because a gallbladder in the body is always better than a gallbladder out of the body, even if it's only working at 20%. Agreed? So I say, dang, there was a disconnect. And if we could have just got to that person sooner, we could have saved that organ. And I don't know about you, but I want all my organs in me. No one's going to convince me that the appendix is a useless organ. Because I read an article 10 years ago from the Germans that said that the appendix is the brain of your digestive system. Here we have the small intestines, and then we have the large intestines. And what lives at the junction between small and large intestines? The appendix. Just because we don't know what it does doesn't mean it doesn't do anything. Got it? I know a lot of people who've had their appendix taken out, and that's a life-saving procedure if your appendix is going to burst. But no one's going to convince me, because I know how the body works. I know that nothing is created on accident. Everything is created perfectly for a specific intent and reason. So nobody's going to convince me that God or innate or anything designed something in me that was useless. You're not going to convince me of that, because I know how the body works, and I have belief and knowledge that this information is coming from somewhere different, higher, above me. You got it? I get excited when I share this with people because I know everyone in this room feels the same way.
Right.
And you're probably the 3 people that don't need to be here. However,
We're here.
you're going to leave with something that you didn't have when you came in here. All right? So this safety pin cycle is alive. It's at work every single second of every single day. You've heard the stories of someone who goes to sleep and doesn't wake up in the morning. There was a disconnect somewhere in their body. And that person typically will tell you they felt fine the day before. Heard that? picture, I hear this all the time, Doc, this person was the picture of health. They just hiked up South Sisters last summer. They did it in record timing. They have 3 kids. They go for 5-mile runs every single day. They eat healthy. Doc, this was the picture of health. 45 years old, aneurysm, brain tumor, dead, left behind kids and family. I've heard it. You guys have heard it too. And I look at this person and I say, here's what I want you to understand. As hard as it is to lose that person, you're going to gain some very important and powerful information right now. And that is, that person wasn't healthy. And they go, no, Doc, they were. I know them. They were healthy. And I say, just because you feel good and just because you look good doesn't mean that your brain and organs and cells are communicating and everything's healthy. And it's the biggest lie that you've ever been told in healthcare, is that if you look good and you feel good, you must be what? Good, healthy. And I'm telling you right now, it ain't the case. So the number one thing that we learn from this cycle and this process is that function and communication drives everything. If your body's spun out of control, you have options and you have hope. And always I tell people, if what matters the most is the most important to you, that's where you should start. And as soon as you understand how the body works, you might get to the point where you understand that I want to take care of my brain, I want to take care of my nervous system, because I know that drives everything else. I would say that's where you need to start. And there's a million other places you can go from there, but why would you not want to start with what matters most to every cell, tissue, and organ in your body? So I'm going to leave you with a story. My friend actually, I didn't get to my lamp, but I'll leave you with this great story, because my friend wrote this out in a blog, and he emailed it to me, and I thought, I tell people this all the time, but it meant more because it was his words coming from him. All right. He tells a story about how this just happened last week. He went to his dentist for his biannual checkup. And the dentist said, great news. They have this new technology where they can measure and monitor gum disease. Did you guys know about this? It's like a scan, kind of like we do for the nervous system. But they can do a scan in your mouth and they can see how the gums are responding to different things, and if the gums are starting to recede. They're monitoring all this stuff. He said, great news. This is the best checkup you've had in a decade. He'd been going to the same dentist for 10 years. And he said, great. And the dentist said, what have you been doing differently? You ready? I started brushing my teeth 3 times a day. I always brush my teeth twice. And I switched toothpastes. I don't use toothpaste with fluoride or any chemicals in it. I use all natural toothpaste. I use this probiotic toothpaste that we use. Okay? And finally, after listening to you harp on me for 10 years, I started flossing. And I started doing all those things every single day. And the outcome changed. Here's the most important part. What do you think the dentist said?
Keep doing it?
He said, Doc, don't change anything. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. For how long? For the rest of your life. And my friend, he's a chiropractor, and he said, that's when it hit me. Because the day before, I have my patients, and I had a patient come in, and the patient said, Doc, I think I'm going to stop getting adjusted for a while because I feel pretty good. And as a chiropractor, I am not responsible for your health, but I really do care about it. And he said, that's when it hit me, because I really care about this person's health. And I'm not responsible for the decisions that they make. But when something matters so much for your existence and every other aspect of your health, why would you stop doing something that is working on keeping this system intact and the healthiest it could be? And there's only one reason. Because they don't know. It's obvious that if you're brushing your teeth and flossing your teeth and doing certain things, and the dentist looks at you and says, don't change anything, you'd be a fool to change anything. And you all agreed with me that, yeah, I would do exactly that. But when it comes to your spine, you would think anything different is... It's a philosophical viewpoint inside of your brain that has just been skewed. And some people get it and some people don't. And the ones that get it sure do live a healthier life being connected. And if a truth's a truth, it's a truth all the time. So you, upon leaving here today, got to hear a philosophical class, much different from some of the other classes maybe that you've been to, or your first class. What a good one to come to. And you get to leave here with hopefully a new inspiration and adopting a new core belief system for caring for what matters most in your life. And if something's working and something is giving you more opportunity to be your best expression, don't change it. That's it. And when you know this process, you sure do know that you're going to come in contact with dozens of people in the next 24 hours. Most all of them don't know this. And when you know what you know, and when you know that it's a truth, you just have to share it. And you got to tell them. And you got to know that lots of them will not listen. When you have something that can change someone's life, like I know you do, because I'm living it, you have no choice but to share it with people. And not everyone's going to accept it. Few will accept the truth. But the ones that do, their lives will be changed forever. Am I right? Good. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.
Glad you guys showed up to listen to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Yeah.
Safety pin cycle.